Hey everybody. Today we'll be covering a video by a theist who apparently has responses to seven atheist statements. So let's see what he's got.
Since neither can know, you've got to be agnostic. Well, okay, that's fair enough. But do you, uh, you know, follow the same rules with fairies and Santa? No, you don't.
Okay, and this is something that I see atheists try to use pretty often, and I'm always surprised, considering the obvious flaw in trying to compare fairies and Santa to the existence of the all-powerful creator of the universe. But aside from that,
Whoa. Hey, did you skip a line on your script or something? You can't just go like, "Oh yeah, no, your evidence is completely bullshit." But moving on, no, we need you to please support your statement. Otherwise, we're just going to think you're pulling this out of your ass. I think he's pulling it out of his ass.
let's break down the actual argument they're trying to make here. What they're trying to say is that the existence of God is irrelevant, or only as relevant as the existence of goblins or fairies.
Me personally, I don't think it's really relevant for me whether or not a God exists in order for me to live my life, day to day. However, when a normal atheist is approaching you and says the statement in which you're so flustered about, they're saying that there's as much evidence for one as there is the other. They're not saying whether or not it's relevant. In that case, they don't care whether or not it's relevant. What they care about is the fact that you have as much evidence supporting one as you have supporting the other.
But the flaw here is that there are two requirements when deciding if the existence of something supernatural is relevant. The first question of relevance is, does this supernatural being have authority over me? Is it some kind of higher power? And this, of course, filters out fairies and goblins, whereas God, on the other hand, created the world and all that is in it, therefore has ultimate authority over all of creation.
Hey, how do you know that goblins or Santa Claus or unicorns didn't team up to make the universe, huh? You have no proof. Again, we fall back to you have as much proof for that as you do for the God you believe in.
Now, there are atheists who try to say that this isn't true, but of course they neglect their own argument in their daily lives. For example, if you were to build a chair from scratch, you could decide what you wanted to do with that chair. You could decide whether you wanted to sit on it, stand on it, burn it, you could call it whatever you wanted. Now, of course, there's limitation because you are human, which is where God's omnipotence comes into play.
I think like halfway through your own statement, you lost what you were trying to say, and you just pulled something out of your ass. You're just, man, a chair. Ooh, yeah, man makes chair. There we go. That's evidence for God. That.
The second question of relevance is, has this supernatural being utilized its authority? Has it communicated and preserved some sort of law to its creation?
All right, folks, I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit, but I'm going to fill you in on what I'm skipping here. I'm going to ask for evidence for this communication that he states happened. He's going to say the Bible. I'm going to laugh and say, no, the Bible's bullshit. He's going to say that the Bible has harmony, and I'm going to say that the Bible has as much harmony as a tone-deaf choir.
Both of these proving its preservation.
I think that using the word God or the attitude of faith toward that which you don't know is a cop-out. It's a way of slapping a label onto something rather than trying to understand it.
Oh, kind of like the faith that you have in science to be able to give a naturalistic explanation for the origin of the universe, life, and information.
In science, when something needs to be proven, it's tested over and over and over again by multiple people, and if it holds up to the tests, then and only then is it seen as valid. In religion, if something is being held up to the light and doesn't make sense, you just chuck it up to God. So, which one of these sounds like faith to you?
People have.
I apologize. I just simply had to add. Next time you're going to do a response video, at least have the courtesy to get a good quality video of what you're responding to. You don't see me over here using a camcorded recording of your video, so I expect the same of you, sir. Thank you.
A real fear of death, and they always have done, they always will do. And there are always people who can provide explanations for what happens. If you tell people they're looked after, it makes them feel better than if you tell them they're alone. So people who believe in reason on these things are always at a disadvantage because we don't have soft fairy tales.
Okay, here he is confusing the fear of death for the instinctual desire that you and I have for a world beyond this one, which is why at 99% of funerals, they talk about how the person is hopefully in a better place. And this actually shows as evidence for the existence of God, because you and I intrinsically long for a place that is all good and lacking the evil that we see in this world.
See, there you are, confusing what's taught you while you're growing up with something that's instinctive. What's instinctive is when you hear a lion roar, you run away. What's taught to you when you're younger is the religious beliefs that you have, some of the ethic codes that you hold dear, things like that. These things aren't instinctive because you're not born with them. They're taught to you while you grow up. These don't prove that God exists. They just prove that someone raised you.
So yes, belief in an afterlife does cater to this need, but he's also overlooking the fact that naturalism caters to the desire to please oneself without limitation. In other words, if there's no God, then there's really no ultimate law, and you can kind of just do whatever you want, which is really what people want to hear.
Okay, if we're going off the moral codes of your God, then slavery is okay. Taking over villages and raping women is okay, and if you accidentally get that woman pregnant, then you simply just pay the father a couple dollars, and now you can have that woman as your wife. Perfectly legit. Now you're probably going to be like, well, that's the Old Testament. We're now in the New Testament, which I have arguments against, but moving on. Then fine, let's go off of what your Jesus said. He's the New Testament person, right? In Luke 19:27, he says, if they do not want me to be king, bring them to my feet and slaughter them in my presence. Yeah, real moral.
You are convinced that every person believes that there's a God, and you are convinced of this because you are convinced that God has revealed this in the Bible. And my question was, how do you know that God has revealed anything?
Okay, so what the questioner does here is he mashes the two most crucial questions in Christian apologetics and combines it into one question. So the first question he implies here is, can you prove God exists? And that is followed directly by the question, can you prove that God has actually communicated with us? And although these are extremely complicated questions, I will attempt to answer them briefly. Now, although I cannot prove that the answer is yes to both these questions,
if you can't prove either one, then that makes your whole argument irrelevant. Wait, does that mean, ladies and gentlemen, he's just admitted defeat. I'm free. Thank God. All right, I'm out. No, fuck you. I'm out. No, fuck you. Thank you so much for your patience, and thank you so much for watching. Now, as always, please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you, and Agent D signing out.